Serie, our world.
Hello, you alright?
Yeah, all good. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad yourself?
Well, it's Monday. It's a bit... Well, I can't swear. Not the best day of the week, but we have a lot to talk about. That should cheer me up.
Yeah, I'll do the usual, go over the results. I'll explain some of the stuff that's been going on in a bit more detail as well. So, weekend opened up with Napoli-Como. It took 25 seconds into the game for the first goal of the weekend, with McTominay scoring. Strafezza equalised just before half time. Napoli then got a penalty which Lukaku put away, which gave him an assist and a goal by 53 minutes. By the 86th minute, he got his second assist as he set up Neres. So Napoli won 3-1 against Como. Verona, Venezia was a back and forth game. Started with Orestano heading at the back post to put Venezia up within 2 minutes. 7 minutes later, Tengsted equalised. Anyone could have really won this, and Verona did in the 81st minute. It was given as an own goal by the goalkeeper, Jornen, but the scoreline could have been so much higher, so it was a 2-1 Verona win. Into Saturday, Udinese won 1-0. It was a Zamora free kick in the 76th minute. Atalanta completely ran riot against Genoa. Retegui show really in the full effect. He scored 24th minute, so at half time it was 1-0, but the second half gave us 5 more goals. Retegui scored a brace in the 50th. He then assisted Ederson's goal in the 60th, and then he converted a penalty for his hat-trick in the 74th. Darun also scored a really good goal outside the box, and that gave Atalanta 5, and then Ekator scored a consolation for Genoa. But, I mean, if Ederson and Zaniolo put their chances away, Retegui could have had a hat-trick of assists as well as goals. So it was crazy, that game. So that's 5-1 to Atalanta. Inter versus Torino. Thuram, I reckon, must have been watching Retegui because he decided he wanted a hat-trick of his own as well. So Torino went down to 10 men. Maripan did a dangerous tackle on Thuram, and it was originally a yellow card, but VAR put it from yellow to red. Torino held out for about 5 minutes, and then Thuram scored, and then 10 minutes after that, he had a brace. So it was and then after that brace, literally not even a minute later, Zapata went down the other end and scored. So it was 2-1 at half time. But in the 60th minute, Thuram got his hat-trick, and then near the end, Vlasic converted a penalty, so it's 3-2 to Inter. Sunday started with the Juve Cagliari game. I think I kind of cursed the game by saying it should be full of goals and stuff. I mean, it could have been, but it didn't. It ended up being a game of 2 penalties. Vlahovic scored a controversial penalty in the 15th minute, and then in the 88th, near the end of the game, Marin also converted after Douglas Luiz fouled, which means Douglas Luiz has given 2 penalties in the last 2 games in all competitions. I mean, we can talk about him a bit later, but I think he's been a bit of a liability so far. S.A.W was sent off a minute later for a second yellow. So they went down to 10, but I mean, it was right near the end of the game, so it was 1-1. Lazio Empoli. Empoli's unbeaten run is now at an end. After taking the lead against Lazio in the 9th minute, Esposito scored for the second game in a row. That's after going 5 years without even a goal. And then in the 4th minute of added time at the end of the first half, Sakani headed in from Tavares cross. And then 5 minutes into the second half, Castellanos had a chance to put Lazio in the lead, but he had a penalty saved. I mean, again, we'll mention that a bit later, but crazy with the penalties this weekend. By the 88th minute, though, Castellanos made up for that miss and he assisted Pedro. So Lazio won 2-1. Bologna-Parma. Again, Parma, I don't know what's going on with these Parma games. They can't stay like full capacity on the pitch. It's either them or the opposition, but mainly them. So they got another red card. Koulibaly was sent off in the 52nd minute, but they held out to a goalless draw. And then what did we have? Oh yeah, Monza Roma was a 1-1 draw. Dogbik still scoring. They took the lead in 61st minute, but 10 minutes later, Motta had equalised. And then the Sunday evening game was crazy. Fiorentina Milan, packed with incidents, and Keane, I don't know what he must have thought after it. But he's got to take the positive from it. He still kept going. He didn't give up. He kept trying. But he had 2 goals disallowed correctly though for offside. He hit the woodwork. He also had a penalty saved in the first half. And then, but 13 minutes later, Adli, who was at Milan, kind of pushed out of there, took on a few players, and on the edge of the box, smashed one into the bottom corner. But just before the end of the first half, in added time, Hernandez had a chance to level, but he had his penalty saved. And then 10 minutes into the second half, Milan had another penalty. This time Abraham took it, but just like Hernandez, he had his penalty saved by De Gea. Pulisic did score an equaliser 4 minutes later, but it wasn't enough as the unlucky Keane set up Goodmanson. And then Palladino was sent to the stands in the 86th minute. And Hernandez liked the look of the card as well, so he decided after the game to run up to the ref and have a go at him, and Pareto sent him off as well. So they ended up with 10 men after the game. So Fiorentina won 2-1, and that is the weekend, full of penalties, red cards, incidents, the usual. I mean, was there one standout game for you, or anything that you want to say about any of it?
Yeah, sorry, I thought I would just let you talk for a while there.
Yeah, sorry, I detailed every one.
One by one, yeah. But what we have, I think, just overall, it's there's a few teams complaining about refereeing again. So that doesn't look good for Serie. Also, because of how many penalties there were, VAR decisions as well were the big topic of the weekend. I didn't realise this until I looked into it today, but Serie has had the most penalties by quite a long shot in all of the top leagues.
I'm not surprised.
So in Serie we have had 32.
Yeah.
In the opening 70 matches that have been played.
Yeah.
So La Liga's had 28.
Yeah.
In their first 90, and Premier League for some reason only 12.
Yeah.
I don't feel that the stereotypes are the reason behind it, where people say, oh, in Italy the refereeing's too strict and in the Premier League it's too relaxed, and that's why these numbers are like they are. I'm not sure of the reason behind it. But they also, there was also a point that teams were openly talking about the decisions, the VAR and the penalties, which isn't good. So I think the league are going to be thinking about that and looking into it. I think Fonseca, he lashed out, but I think more so he's probably feeling the pressure. Maybe the axe is coming for him.
Yeah.
So he feels that he can say stuff. I'm sure he's going to get in trouble for it. I don't know if you saw that he was saying how it's a circus. Roma were mad and they openly were talking about it also. I think it's just some thinking. I mean, I don't know. What do you reckon about the number of penalties?
Well, I mean,
is it because the refereeing's too strict, or what would you say?
I mean, I'd say you got to say it's a mixed bag. You can't say every single penalty is controversial, because it's not. And I mean, as we know, and we keep saying, the football in Italy in Serie A is attacking. It's end to end, and how many times do they get in the area? There's bound to be penalties, because there's going to be mistakes, and that's one of the reasons. But on top of that, there are a lot of focus, because the focus is always going to be on the controversial ones. Do you know what I mean? They're always going to make a bigger deal out of that than the normal penalties, which should be penalties, should we say. So, I mean, obviously I don't have the stat in front of me or anything, but I think the stat that needs to be looked at is how many of the penalties that were given weren't actual penalties or could have not been given as a penalty, rather than how many penalties were given. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I mean, of course, from this weekend, there were a couple of ones maybe we would argue about. Say, should they have been?
Yeah.
Maybe there were even some which should have been.
Well, that's it. That's what I'm saying. There's times that penalties aren't given and should have been given, and then there's the opposite. But the problem is when it comes to VAR and they given a penalty or whatever, and it shouldn't have been a penalty. That's the problem, rather than. Do you know what I mean? So it's a difficult one to just look at just straight up and go, look, penalties. This is how many penalties, because it's easy to do that. Especially like I find that especially. The press here, or maybe it does. They do it in other leagues as well. But I've seen it loads here that if something happens in Serie A, for example, that they want to make controversial, and something just happens all on a weekend, then they make a big deal out of it. For example, as I say, because there were so many penalties, I guarantee I ain't even seen anything from here. But I guarantee there'll be things here saying, "Oh look, Serie A, this, and this, and this," and trying to belittle it basically and put it down. And just like I remember once where there was a weekend where it had quite a few 0-0s. Not even that the games were boring. It was just happened to be one weekend after loads of weekends of high scores. They picked that weekend to then put it in the paper and went, look how boring Serie A is. And I was just like, what is that? They've not shown.
I remember that. That was Rio Ferdinand's column.
Oh, was it? Yeah. I think I can't even say what I want to say.
He pulled out those games and then was like, look at this.
Look at the Prem's better and all that crap.
How great the Premier League is. And I remember talking to you about it actually, and we were saying of all the weekends, he chooses this one free weekend.
Yeah.
When if you wanted to compare any other, like
every other weekend,
we've seen more recently if you want to, and we're comparing, and there's nothing boring about it, to be fair.
There's not. As I say, I think I said it last time. It is very rare that you watch a Serie A game, whether it's the bottom teams, the top teams, or the bottom playing the top, or whatever, where you don't have all these incidents, you don't have all this entertainment in the actual game itself. It's like when you get one game that's quite boring or nothing's going on, it's kind of like, what? Like I don't understand what's happened just now. Do you know what I mean? But when I watch, I'm not even just saying just Prem. I've seen the other leagues as well. But I do find Prem one of the most boring, and that's just my personal opinion. The majority of games I watch in it are either one-sided completely, or just nothing's going on, and that's it. And that's how I see it. And I know all the ones who like Prem and blindly follow it will be like, oh my god, yeah, right. What's he talking about? All this shit. But no, I mean all that stuff. But yeah, what can I say? It's just one of those things. So it was crazy, loads of penalties, but I mean it's not just the refereeing that needs looking at. And as I say, the problem is because this is in Serie A, it gets highlighted even more, and that's the issue as well. When it happens elsewhere, it gets quickly swept under the carpet, quickly gone over. They maybe argue about it for a couple of weeks, but then it disappears, and that's it. In Serie A, unfortunately, they go on and on and on until something happens, and they don't care whether it's the biggest teams or the smallest teams. They will punish them, and that's the thing. Well, elsewhere they won't, and then
that's true. I mean, we've seen so many times, right? Whether it's financial fair play, which I guess isn't under the control of the league, but financial fair play or calciopoli, betting scandals, everything. Eventually, people will say, they'll name one of the big teams and say, look, they're cheating, they're always cheating. But, eventually you do see repercussions in Serie A. I mean, it messes up the league sometimes, but at least it's somewhat in the fairer direction.
Well, at least they actually deal with it in no matter on reputation, and that's the thing. That's the difference. And as I say, that's the problem it gives, because they do that and they do it so blatant. They put they put Serie A also in a bad light at the same time, and give all the other leagues that opportunity to go, oh look at that, look at that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Even if they are, they won't even admit it, would they? So yeah, that's the thing, and we are aware of lots of controversies from this league over here, and it's standard saying the same thing. Standard now that you're telling me players are coming here for the league when it's the cash. It's the cash, not the league, which they have to. They don't differentiate between them. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, I say we could talk about this forever, which league and that league and all this, but.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the real winner of all of this, especially this weekend, was De Gea, because I mean, his record, this made his record look very good. Did you know about this, that he'd only saved 3 penalties in 8 years at Man U? Yeah. And then obviously he saved 2 last night. So yeah, he's the winner, I think, out of all these crazy penalties that took place.
Yeah, he's regaining his reputation a bit, and he has improved since he's. I mean, the first couple of games and a few games for Fiorentina, he wasn't doing too well, and I mean, he's. You got to remember here, they were saying he was the best goalie in the world and all that stuff for ages. Yeah, and now he's in Serie A, I'm sure he's nothing, and he's past it, even though he's I think 33 or something. Which for a goalie, I mean, they still got plenty. He's still got I don't know, 5 seasons or so, depending.
Is that how old? He's only 33.
Yeah, I think he's 33. He's early 30s. I'm pretty sure he's 33.
I'm not sure why I thought he was way older and a year or 2 off retirement. Well, yeah, then that's good. If this is how he's starting, and he was very humble as well. If you saw what he was saying yesterday, he was like, "Look, I'm not taking the credit for this win." Which is good attitude to have.
Mm-hmm.
Mad bunch of penalties, I think. But that shouldn't be the sum up. I think, for me, if I had to pick a game of the weekend, I liked the Inter Torino game. The Milan Fiorentina, of course. That was 1-2, right? So yeah, I don't know about you. Did you have one?
It's hard to pick one out again. I say there was so much going on in all the games. I mean, maybe Atalanta, just because it was good to see Retegui scoring a hat-trick and how well they were doing. It reminded me more of that Atalanta. Do you know what I mean? It's starting to pick up like how they were, and I'm hoping they can put that into the Champions League as well as the league this season. Because they are a team that I would like to do well, just for the fact the way they play the football and stuff. But yeah, I think otherwise a bit difficult. I think we've been talking for ages already, so I'll go on to the next bit. We got, which I didn't realise last week because I'm too busy not looking ahead too far, but it's actually now a break for a couple of weeks. We've got Nations League on Thursday. Italy are playing Belgium. And then on the Monday they're playing Israel. Just quickly go through the squads. In goal, they've called up Di Gregorio, Donnarumma, and Vicario. Then in defence we have Bastoni, Bellanova, Buongiorno, Calafiori, Cambiasso, Di Lorenzo, Di Marco, Gabbia, Ocali, and Udogie. And then midfield we have Fagioli, Frattesi, Pellegrini, Pisoli, Ricci, and Tonali. And then up front we've got Keane, Maldini, Raspadori, and Retegui. Decent squad, I think. I'm glad he's picking some on form rather than who they're playing for and all that. I mean, the only one. Only because of more of his performances for Italy rather than I know he's picking up now because he's up the top of the league there with Di Lorenzo, but for Italy he has had some poor performances, so that's my only worry if he's going to start him if he's on his Italian form rather than the Napoli form. But other than that, I think it's a decent squad. There's room for potential as well, and I still think the Italy players, I mean, there's others that could come in. No one should be just resting thinking, this is my spot and that's it, really. But I'm looking forward to seeing if they can pick up and give more of a performance against France than the other one they had, where they just really dragged, really. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I'll give a quick mention because I realised that the under-21s are also playing on the 15th against Ireland. So looking forward to that. That's a Euro qualifier for the under-21s. And again, they've got various players that could eventually, or should eventually, be in the main squad, and some not far off, like Savona, Coyote. Who else have we got here? Bove, Moretti, Fabian, Baldanzi, Bianco. I like a lot. Fazzini, and then Nonto and stuff like that. So yeah, future's looking bright, I reckon.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent to choose from, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's absolutely not lacking.
No, and as I said before, even when Mancini and that was complaining, I just think they weren't looking at the right people, and that was it. They just wanted certain people to be in the squad rather than actually scour the lands and and look who can play for Italy. But again, that's another matter. Now we have to see what Spalletti's had. I think that time now to start picking the people he wants to pick and how he wants to play, and we have to see how it goes from here.
Well, yeah, and Retegri's, as we say, he's back. He's just in time.
Yeah.
On form, so very excited to see what comes of that.
Exactly.
But by the way, did you say Richie is in the team?
Did I say that? I can't even remember now. Let me just double check. I think he was. But,
I'm looking. I want to.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
I hope to see him.
I thought he would be, but I just double checked. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see him play because there's obviously a lot of talk and a lot of eyes on him now about a move to City, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and Milan are looking at him as well. But Milan have been doing it's the usual thing for Milan because they've been looking at him for the last 2-3 seasons, and I just don't understand why they never went for him before. Now at this stage is going to be silly because his price tag is going to be going up every week, and it's going to get to a point where they're just going to turn around and say we can't afford him. So I just don't understand these scouting for seasons and seasons. You should be able to tell whether they're going to fit in or what potential they have after. I mean, half a season, let alone not even that. Do you know what I mean? A season should tell you enough, but why have another season and another season? If you're not sure, do a loan. I don't get. Milan are one of those in Italy that particularly just annoy me in their transfers. I just don't understand. Before, in the 90s and all that, they used to all of a sudden they'd have all these players just come in. You'd be like, whoa, okay. Now they announce them 5 years before who they're looking at, and then by the time they get to bidding for them, they've gone elsewhere, and that's it. It's ridiculous, but yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Sorry, or anything before we finish this off?
No, I think we're good. Other than Pulisic is the man. Well,
for Milan anyway.
Yeah, he's doing well too. So another guy, and Pogba, as we were saying about the ban being reduced, he's going to be a free transfer, isn't he? So he'll be leaving.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know where to.
It's a bit strange. I'm thinking. I mean, there was something going on there. I think Juve were going to get rid of him before the ban, from the sounds of it and the look of it, because it makes no sense that basically they're now just going to get rid of him when he's kind of like a new signing. So I thought they could have really done that. But if they're going to look to terminate, I think one of the other teams, if he is all right like he used to be, I mean, I think the only problem is going to be his wage. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going to somewhere like Saudi, on a high wage, high signing on fee, and all that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But otherwise, if he wants to stay in Italy, I don't understand why any of the other teams might not even look at him, just to see how he does for the half a season or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. But yeah, okay. As I said, it's 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks till next Serie. So we'll just sort out the fixtures for that weekend and all that other stuff, and obviously talk about what Italy have done as well, and go from there.
Okay.
All right.
Nice. Sounds good. Cheers.
Nice. See you later, man. Bye.
See ya. Bye.